In her high-rise Manhattan office, Clara only drank rare Darjeeling tea. It was brewed in a Wedgwood porcelain pot, every gram calculated like gold, a symbol of refinement and power. But then she came to Hanoi, and she abandoned those expensive rituals for a simple, free, moss-green liquid poured from a worn aluminum kettle. She became addicted to its pure astringency and faint aroma because she quickly realized what was being poured wasn't just water, but time and respect. This is the story of how a financial expert learned the true value of care without a single spreadsheet. After the shock of her helping instinct in Saigon, Clara knew she needed a change of scenery to reset her mind. She'd learned that speed and risk were obsolete models for her life, but she still needed to find a new model for relationships. So she flew to Hanoi. Unlike the spontaneous chaos of Saigon, Hanoi's old quarter was wrapped in a profound sense of contemplation, layered with history. It was a place where rules weren't written on paper, but passed down through actions and gestures. Perfect for someone like Clara, who always sought structure. She found a humble sidewalk iced tea stall on a quiet street near Hangai. The owner was a woman in her 60s, Bahua, her face as gentle as a Buddha's. She was always busy by her small charcoal stove, where an old aluminum kettle constantly steamed. In Clara's former life, tea was a statement. She'd spent hours studying premium varieties, Japanese matcha for perfection, pu'er for long-term investment, or Darjeeling for unmistakable sophistication. Her tea was an embodiment of control and luxury. But here, everything was astonishingly simple. Bahua took a handful of fresh green tea leaves, dropped them into the pot, poured in boiling water, and just waited. No thermometer, no timer, no gold filter. Only intuition and habit. Clara ordered a cup. Bahua poured it into a small ceramic bowl. The taste? A sharp, almost shocking bitterness from the very first sip. It wasn't gentle or complex. It was an electrical jolt to the palate, as authentic and raw as the sidewalk life itself. But right after that bitterness came a lingering, cooling sweetness, deep and persistent. She called it the zero-cost luxury. This wasn't the tea she used to drink. This was the laborer's refreshment, yet it offered an uncompromising clarity. She was hooked on that raw, honest bitterness. What truly fascinated her, though, wasn't the taste, but the behavior of the people around her. Next to Clara sat a family of 3 generations. The grandfather, Ong Tai, in his 80s, sat on the highest wooden chair. Beside him were his son, Khan, and his granddaughter, Tuyet. Their conversation was slow, unhurried. Tuyet poured the tea, but she didn't pour for herself first. She poured for her grandfather, and Ong Tai received the cup using both hands. It was a silent, powerful ritual of reverence. Clara thought of her own family. Her relationship with her elderly parents back in the US was maintained through scheduled calls, annual visits, and financial support. All of them were transactions. She would calculate, I call twice a week, I cover the nursing costs, that is sufficient, my liability is fulfilled. But here, she was witnessing actions that couldn't be quantified. Ong Tai began telling a story, one Clara was certain he'd told 100 times before. But his son Khan listened with undiminished focus. He didn't interrupt, didn't check his phone. He simply placed a hand on his father's back, a simple gesture that said, I am here. Later, when Ong Tai coughed, his granddaughter Tuyet, who had been busy on her phone, immediately stood up. She didn't fetch medicine. She took an old palm leaf fan and gently fanned him, chasing away the heat. This act wasn't about medicine. It was about sacrificing her time for his comfort. Clara, the valuation expert, tried to assign a number to these actions. Time spent listening to an old story, 15 minutes. The cooling gesture, 30 seconds. The total value, unquantifiable. She realized that in her system, time was money. Spending 15 minutes listening to an old story was a massive opportunity cost. But for this family, time was respect. And respect wasn't a cost, but an investment in family connection. She thought to herself, they are investing in an asset that never depreciates, trust and kinship. In my ledger, I classified my parents as a liability to be settled. I never saw them as an invaluable asset. Mesmerized, Clara tried to participate. She bought a bundle of fresh green tea and offered it to Bahua, who accepted it with a gentle smile. Then she tried to engage with the family. As Ong Tai prepared to stand, Clara, following her American instinct, stepped forward and offered to pay for their drinks. It was a calculation, a way to make things convenient. Khan the son smiled politely, but refused. "Thank you, miss, but we cannot allow you to do that. My grandfather is treating you." Clara was confused. Ong Tai didn't even know her. Why would he treat her? Hearing the conversation, Ong Tai gestured to his granddaughter. Tuyet, without a word, poured a full cup of fresh tea and respectfully presented it to Clara with both hands. It was a breakthrough moment. Khan translated his father's slow, clear voice. He says, "This is fresh tea, drink it. Drink it to remember that if you sit here with us, you are family. It has no price." Clara received the cup with both hands, an action she had just learned from watching Tuyet. The warmth of the ceramic spread through her palms. The deep bitterness of the green tea was no longer a shock, but an invitation, an acceptance. She realized that, in her world, every instance of care was a subtle transaction. Here, care was a gift, given freely, unconditionally. She remembered the accident in Chicago, how she hadn't dared to touch the victim, fearing liability. But this family relationship was built on touch, a hand on the back, a cup offered with two hands, a fan cooling a forehead. These physical touches were conduits of respect, requiring no insurance contract or risk assessment. Clara didn't finish the tea immediately. She sipped slowly, feeling each drop, allowing the bitterness to pass and the sweetness to linger. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to be served unconditionally, without feeling indebted or needing to calculate the value. She felt the warmth of this family permeate her, melting the cold rigor of calculation. When she left, she didn't offer money. She simply bowed to Bahua and Ong Tai. Then, using both hands, she gently touched Ong Tai's hand. In slow, reverent Vietnamese, she said, "Chao Kamon Ong, Chao Ja Hoc Juochen Hieu." "Thank you, grandfather. I have learned much." She left the old quarter, carrying not just the astringent taste of green tea, but the flavor of reverence. She knew that when she returned to Chicago, she wouldn't just call her parents on schedule. She would ask, "Do you need a fan?" She would listen without calculating the 15 minutes as an opportunity cost. Because the highest value doesn't lie in things we can measure with money, but in acts of unconditional respect. Reverence is the only invaluable asset. If Clara's story resonated with you, share it with someone who believes time spent with family is a cost. And don't miss the next chapter in our Slow Drip series, where Clara confronts the art of bargaining, a complex human transaction set against the rigidity of the stock market. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and follow to join our community and be the first to know when the next story drops.